San Diego has much to offer whether a longtime local or a weekend visitor. Join me, Brendan, as I navigate my way throughout this busy city in search to find out what's happening right outside my front door. It's time to toss the remote control and prepare for a journey, the journey of Brendan's Beat. Rock and roll is more than just music. It's a cultural revolution. But where did it all begin? Let's rewind the clock and explore the roots of this electrifying genre.
Come on, everybody! Come on, everybody!
Rock and roll's roots can be traced back to the late 1940s and early 1950s. It emerged from a blend of African American musical styles like blues, jazz, gospel, and rhythm and blues, mixed with country and western music.
It's the hottest number on the highway.
It's the 88
The Oldsmobile 88.
with the famous rocket engine.
You women have heard of jalopies, you've heard the noise they make. But
This song had the upbeat tempo, the electric guitar, and the rebellious spirit that defines rock and roll. What about the pioneers who took this new sound and made it a global sensation? Let's talk about a few legends who laid down the groundwork for rock and roll. First up, the true guitar hero, Chuck Berry.
Deep down in Louisiana, close to New Orleans, way back up in the woods among the evergreens.
With hits like Johnny B. Good, he brought storytelling and that iconic guitar riff to rock and roll.
I'm the Dairy Queen, won't you come with me along the milkshake way? I've got lots of good surprises, fresh and yummy for you every day. There are malts and shakes and sundaes too, whenever you stop. And of course your very, very favorite, the cone with the curl on top.
Check out the styling and electrifying Little Richard. His song Tutti Frutti is a rock and roll anthem with his wild piano playing and energetic performances. He showed the world that rock and roll is here to
Now, here's
stay.
the thing that I was getting at. You and Chuck have kind of taken England by storm. How do you feel about other people borrowing your material?
Well, Dick, I must be truthful. I'm very grateful to know that my material is the type of material that the entertainers today would like to use.
Will you spend a few minutes at our autograph table?
I'd be very, very glad to.
Nice to have you with us.
Thank you.
Little Richard, ladies and gentlemen.
And of course, folks, the king of rock,
Elvis Presley.
with his swinging hips and powerful voice, Elvis brought rock and roll into mainstream media. Songs like Hound Dog and Jailhouse Rock became instant classics. Did you know Elvis Presley is a black belt in karate? He even incorporated some of his moves into his dances. Okay, again, Elvis.
How many hours do you...
Rock and roll wasn't just about music, it was about breaking barriers and defying the norms.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11.
It influenced fashion, dance, and even people's attitudes. From rebellious teenagers to cultural icons, it changed the world. Now let's focus on the fundamentals that make it rock. Let's get straight to the beat. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. At its core, rock and roll often uses simple chord progressions.
It's true. One of the most common chord progressions actually comes from the 12-bar blues, which uses the first, the fourth, and the fifth chords of the scale.
And that's the foundation of countless rock classics. Now it's time to talk about the instruments that give rock its unique sound. I'm at the Poorhouse in Oceanside, San Diego with my band, Jungle Poppins. The electric guitar brings the iconic powerful riffs and solos that drive the music's energy. The bass lays down the groove, providing depth and rhythm. The keyboard adds texture and melody, giving the music its unique flair. And the drums? They're the heartbeats, keeping the rhythm steady and giving rock its pulse. The influence these iconic pioneers had on later artists was huge. The early 1960s saw British bands like the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and the Who take over the American music scene, bringing a new sound and energy. Did you know the Beatles appeared on the Ed Sullivan Show in 1964 with a record setting of 73 million viewers? Wow! The Rolling Stones were also inspired by early rock and roll. They started out playing covers of songs by Chuck Berry, Muddy Waters, and other blues and rock artists. Mick Jagger's stage presence and Keith Richards' guitar style were shaped by these rock legends.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Trivia time. Did you know the Rolling Stones got their name from a Muddy Waters song?
You're gonna be a rolling stone. You're gonna be a rolling stone.
That's how deeply the roots of rock and roll run in their music. However, let's not forget about the Who, their explosive live performances in rock operas like Tommy. Emerging in the 1960s, the psychedelic rock was characterized by experimental sounds, surreal lyrics, and an association with counterculture movements. This genre of music embraced tripping light shows and elaborate album arts, such as Pink Floyd. Did you know Pink Floyd had the world's first ever surround sound concert at Queen Elizabeth's Hall in 1967? The Jimi Hendrix Experience blew away listeners with its groundbreaking guitar work. Check out my Jimi Hendrix mosaic made out of guitar picks. Let's welcome back my music mentor and bandmate Steven Crowell.
Yeah!
Since this episode is on rock, and you can really shred on the guitar. I'm excited to ask you a few questions. Who are some of your favorite rock musicians that have inspired you?
Oh, that is a good question. How long is this interview? Because I have a lot of answers. Most of my favorite rock musicians are guitar-oriented, so I really love Stevie Ray Vaughan. John Mayer, I do love the way he plays. And Brad Paisley, I guess that's country, but he rocks a little bit too. And Joe Satriani and Steve Vai, you know those guitar shredders? They don't even sing in their music, they just play guitar.
Some of my favorites are the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, the Who, and Fleetwood Mac. Together, we've played I Can't Get No Satisfaction by the Rolling Stones.
We did play that, you're right.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was a good time.
We've been playing together in Jungle Poppins for 6 years. What are some of your favorite Jungle Poppins songs?
Has it really been 6 years? And we've done a lot of music, a lot of covers, and a lot of originals. I think that my favorite are the originals, and I really like doing Mexican Coke because we have a really fun kind of sound for it, very grungy indie rock sound. But then I also really like to do My New Holiday because you and I get to rock out pretty hard in that song.
My favorite is Don't Stop Believin' by Journey. You crush it on the guitar.
Thank you.
How long have you been playing the guitar?
Let's see, I started in about middle school, so for about 18 years, I believe, I've been playing guitar.
Do you play any other instruments besides guitar?
I only say that I'm a guitar player because that's the one that I spent the most time doing, but I also play drums and bass and keyboard, and then I play a couple weird ones like mandolin and banjo and dobro. I call it the hillbilly Appalachian side instruments.
You know my first band, Jungle Poppin'.
Yes.
Do you remember the name of your first band?
I do. The first one that I would say I was playing out with was actually the singer-songwriter named Haley Montgomery. She goes by Doll now. But then the first band that was like my original project was one that you know really well, which is called Wish in the Well. You remember that band?
Yeah. Here's a fun one. If you could have a beer with any famous rock star, who would it be?
You know what? I should have mentioned this artist in my favorite influences, but I think Eddie Van Halen would be the guy that I would want to have a beer with, and unfortunately he's passed, so that can never happen. But I would love to pick his brain on what he thought about guitar tone and how he came up with all those crazy licks that we all have to play nowadays.
I picked Mick Jagger. I bet he can throw a good party.
What if we got Mick Jagger and Van Halen in a room and started a band with them?
That'll be really fun. I know. You've played in a lot of bands throughout the years. What bands are you in now?
Well, my number one band that I play with every single week is Jungle Poppins. With Brendan, Ethan, and Reed. We have a whole bunch of originals and we play together all the time. And so that's my busiest band. And then my second busiest band that I also dedicate all my time to would be Ash Easton, Southern rock singer in San Diego. And then Coastal Wolves. Have you seen Coastal Wolves?
Yeah.
That's with Heath Farmer. Heath Farmer wrote a lot of songs for Jungle Poppins. You remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are the three bands that I would say dedicate the most of my time to. But then I play with a lot of other people around town, like Cody Carter. I've played with Jonathan Lee in the past. Really anybody who's looking for guitar and I have a free day, I'm down to play. So give me a call.
Steve!
Any words of advice for fellow musicians out there?
Yes, I have a lot to say for fellow musicians, a lot of advice, because I've been a music teacher for the last probably 10 years, and so my job is to give advice. And the number one thing is stick with it and practice regularly. If you start, try and find something that you really want to learn. Instead of learning something that you think you're supposed to learn, try and learn music that you like and gets you inspired. Once you do that, the next thing is don't ever stop. Spend all of your money on guitars because it's more fun. Guitars are cool.
It was awesome interviewing you.
Thank you, Brandon. It was really awesome being here. I love hanging out with you and making music.
By the late 60s and early 70s, classic rock became heavier and more aggressive, laying the groundwork for hard rock. Did you know Aerosmith is the best-selling American hard rock band of all time? Here's another fun fact. Did you know Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven is one of the most played songs on FM radio stations in the US? Having sold more than 150 million records worldwide, and including over 70 million records in the United States alone. Taking it to the next level, AC/DC is said to have bridged the gap between hard rock and heavy metal. Let's get down to business. Deep Purple is noted for its blend of classical music and hard rock, which truly is the DNA of heavy metal. However, Black Sabbath is often credited as the pioneers of heavy metal, with their use of extreme volume, riff-based songs, gothic look, and dark subject matter. They influenced bands such as Metallica, Guns N' Roses, Iron Maiden, and the Ramones, creating subgenres of heavy metal such as punk rock and indie rock. Artists such as Kiss, Elton John, Rod Stewart, Queen, and David Bowie's Ziggy Stardust adopted glam styles. However, Mark Bolan from T-Rex paved the way. T-Rex was founded in 1967 and was built upon the work of Chuck Berry and Little Richard. Moving through this timeline of rock, we arrive at alternative rock bands such as the Red Hot Chili Peppers, R.E.M., and Radiohead. Did you know alternative was initially used to describe bands that were signed to independent labels? Modern rock, consisting of bands such as Foo Fighters, Greta Van Fleet, and Imagine Dragons, draw heavily from past legends, blending classic sounds with contemporary contributions. So, how's that rock and roll rewind? We talked a ton about rock and its influences. However, let's give an extra awesome shout out to the women that took rock and roll to a whole new level. Janis Joplin was a powerhouse vocalist, known for her raw, emotive singing and electrifying stage presence. Stevie Nicks, known as the Queen of Rock and Roll, gained fame as a member of Fleetwood Mac and as a solo artist. Did you know Stevie Nicks is the only woman to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame twice? Heart, led by sisters Ann and Nancy Wilson, became one of the most successful female-fronted rock bands of all time. They achieved widespread commercial success, breaking barriers in a male-dominated genre. Way to go, ladies! Joan Jett, known as the godmother of punk, is celebrated for her pioneer role in punk rock and hard rock. Did you know Joan Jett was rejected by 23 major labels before forming her own label, Black Hearts Records, and releasing her hit album, I Love Rock and Roll? She is truly resilient. Speaking of powerful and resilient women, Ash Easton, incredible vocals and power stage presence, has San Diego begging for more. In 2023, Ash won Best New Artist at the San Diego Music Awards, and in 2024, she was nominated for Best Rock Artist. Way to go, Ash! Well, friends, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for my next episode on R&B.